Insert theme song here. Welcome to episode 5 of Please Don't Hate Me. I'm Jean.
And I'm aquatic cat specialist, Alix.
So we've been on a bit of a musical kick, which honestly really isn't that different from normal. But Hamilton came out about a week ago, and it's definitely kicked up some musical memories for both of us. The look that Alex just gave me was kind of priceless. So today we're gonna be talking a bit of musicals. We're gonna do our Tell Me a Thing musical edition. I'm gonna talk about Phantom of the Opera. Alex is gonna talk about
Rent. An exciting turn of events.
We'll do a fan fiction intermission, and then we're gonna talk Hamilton. We're gonna talk specifically the Muppet casting of Hamilton, because this is something we've kind of debated about.
It's been
for
like years.
It's been it's been an on and off debate for a while. So somebody actually came out and made
Act 1.
I think Act 1 of Hamilton with all the Muppet voices essentially. So we're gonna talk about that, and then we're gonna talk about some theater accessibility stuff, because the pro shot of Hamilton is gorgeous, and we want to talk about the fact that that should be a normal thing for shows. You want to get started?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to tell me a thing about Rent?
I feel like I always go first. You go first.
Okay, I'll tell you a thing about Phantom of the Opera.
That's the one with the chandelier, right?
Oh, absolutely, that's the one with the chandelier. So, Phantom of the Opera, if you've heard of musicals, you've probably heard of Phantom of the Opera. Andrew Lloyd Webber, 1986. It's been the longest running show on Broadway and in the West End, if you don't count the whole COVID stop or whatever, you know. It's the show with the chandelier. It's my favorite. It was the first Broadway show I ever saw. It was the first piece of professional theater I ever saw. It's what made me fall in love with watching musicals. And I got 3 facts for you.
Okay.
So your first one is, Hamilton has already passed Phantom of the Opera's revenue income. Phantom's mask was originally covered his entire face. And there are 130 people that work on every performance.
Does the 130 people, is that cast, crew, orchestra?
There's 130 people that work on every performance.
Okay. I believe that it has already surpassed Hamilton has already surpassed revenue for Phantom, because it had 6
concurrent running shows, which is
and they're selling
blasphemous.
Tickets for your firstborn child and a second leg.
Blasphemous isn't the right word. It's just unheard of.
It's unheard
to have
of,
6 concurrent running.
Unprecedented.
Yeah, there we go. 3 resident shows and 3 tours.
I think just from a costuming standpoint, I'm gonna have to go with the mask originally covered his entire face.
As a lie,
just because, I don't know, I'm thinking about that with the microphone and trying to figure out where they'd put it, and that is just making my head hurt a little.
So, the lie is actually that Hamilton has not surpassed Phantom.
Oh!
Phantom has been running 2 resident productions for over 30 years, in the West End and on Broadway. Both of those are the original productions in those locations. They've had a show in Vegas. They've had the 25th anniversary concert at Royal Albert Hall. They've had multiple tours, and they've, at this point, have $6 billion in revenue.
Jeez Louise!
Hamilton, I believe, is at 600 million. So
wild.
Yeah. The original promotional video for Phantom of the Opera is absolutely hilarious, because there was a little bit of a different style of music. They had originally cast a rock star as Phantom, so it was a little bit more rock heavy. It's hilarious, because you have to remember that this video was actually created to kind of help push the show to producers to get them to invest in the show. So the show wasn't ready yet. So it's a very cinematic. It's a cinematic trailer for this musical that they wanted to come out with. Mind you, another musical titled Phantom about Phantom of the Opera was being written at the same time.
Awkward.
So Andrew Lloyd Webber was like, gotta get this out there. I kind of feel bad for the other production. It has some songs in it that I really like, but it's not Phantom of the Opera, you know? It was just kind of like, that's my argument that, like, success is about timing and opportunity, because it's like, if they had made theirs, like, maybe 3 years earlier, they probably could have been this show, but at the same time, they didn't have the same opportunities that, like, Andrew Lloyd Webber has, so. But yeah, if you watch that video, his mask, like, takes up the upper half of his face.
Oh!
But all of the facts say that it covered, like, his whole face, because I believe that's what it has in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they just realized that it would become too difficult to sing in.
Yeah?
Which is why it made it, like, so hard to believe that they would actually do that.
Yeah.
But there you go. They've actually
like,
said it's, like, originally supposed to take up his whole face, because that's, like, I think even in promotional stuff for it, it had the picture of, like, the whole mask.
Mm-hmm. How would they not mask it? How would they mic it? Would you mic over the mask, under the mask? Because if you did it under the mask, every time he got hit in the head, you'd just hear like a dunk, dunk.
I don't know. Maybe pre-record it.
Yeah, sure. Let's just track an entire musical. That's fine.
You only have to do, like, what is it? Maybe like 25% of it. Christine. It's all about Christine. It's not about Phantom. The look. I wish you guys could see the look that Alex gives me sometimes, because they're priceless. Priceless, I tell you. Fun times. You want to tell me a thing about Rent?
Other than it's too damn high. I made myself laugh.
A joke to yourself.
Yeah, it's great. Okay. So, first of all, have you seen the movie?
Yes.
Okay, you have.
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen the taped last Broadway production?
No.
Her full name,
Maybe.
Renee Goldsberry?
Is she not in Hamilton?
She is.
Okay.
So the woman who plays Angelica in Hamilton was the last Mimi on Broadway.
I did know that.
That's not one of my facts, obviously.
Good, because I already knew that.
So, fun fact, the movie shares a director with the Harry Potter franchise. The movie features the entire original main cast. And Life Support, the support group in Rent, and subsequently the songs Life Support and Will I, are based on a real HIV support group that Jonathan Larson attended called Friends Indeed, and No Day But Today, which is the tagline for the show, was a Friends Indeed phrase.
Interesting.
When I say attended, all accounts say that he just sat there. Like, he didn't actually contribute. He was just absorbing what was going on there.
Interesting. I totally believe the whole, like, life imitates art thing, so I totally believe that last one. Or art imitates life, sorry. Train of thought. Good. Words good. I totally believe that, like, composers and writers for shows, like, will draw from life for that stuff. And then occasionally, or most of the time, draw directly from sources that maybe aren't mainstream. So they'll, like, pull from it and nobody will ever really know. And so it either becomes a fun fact or it becomes a point of tension, depending on how the inspiration feels about that. So I totally believe that he would draw the tagline from a show from a support group like that. People that direct movies direct a whole lot of strange stuff. Like, they can jump genres. So I would totally believe that somebody could go from directing Rent or directing Harry Potter to directing Rent. You know, back and forth. I don't know which came first, but
Harry Potter came first.
Okay. Who knows? Maybe the person really loved Rent and then was just like, sure, I'll direct Rent. The look you gave me implies that maybe he didn't, or maybe they didn't. But that leaves the movie cast was the original cast. And I'm going to have to say that I don't I don't think the movie cast was the original cast. I don't know who's in the movie, and I don't know who the original cast was.
I was gonna say,
but I'm gonna have to say it's that.
If that's your guess, would you like to make a guess as to who would not be from the original Broadway cast that's in the movie?
Is it
like what characters?
Is it Mark?
No.
Then I have no idea.
Okay, so you're correct. The entire original cast is not in the movie. The original actress who played Mimi, I'm terrible with names, I think was like, had just had a baby or was like about to have a baby. So she was like, I can't do that. So Rosario Dawson was cast in her place.
Oh, okay.
That's like one of the first things she did. And then the actress who had played Joanne on Broadway was too old. So they replaced her with Tracy Toms.
Wild.
Because they all look old in the movie, and they're really not supposed to. They're supposed to be like our current age, which is like between like 23 and 27, I think is what they're supposed to be. Or 22 and I'm an idiot. 19 and 27. Because I think that like Benny is supposed to be older or something. I don't know. And Collins is a professor, like, but they in the movie they're like definitely 30.
I mean, this is a common thing throughout Hollywood, though, is like the total aging of characters, or having like adults play teenage characters and having teenage characters act like adults and make decisions that no teenager would ever make, or put them in situations that no teenager would ever be put in. And this happens in YA novels too, and I have a little bit of a problem with this.
Why does Archie have a gun?
Yeah. I don't know why you said it like that. I don't think that's what I sound like. But yeah, why does Archie have a gun? Anyway. But yeah, so I think it's funny, because Rent was based off of an opera called La Boheme.
Yeah, the similar ideas, similar premise.
They just add the whole rent strike and...
Yeah, like, instead of tuberculosis, the thing that's killing everybody is HIV. But there's still, like, I think in La Boheme, the character that Mimi was based off of is like a ballet dancer or something. Like, Roger was still an artist, like his character was an artist, and Mark was still like a painter or something.
I don't think Mimi, I think Mimi was just a girl in La Boheme. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I did a production of La Boheme, but Italian is hard. Especially when you're working on it and can't see the subtitles.
Oh, she's a seamstress. Interesting.
Yeah, I think
what
she's
a change.
Like just a person, you know.
But yeah, another fun fact about the life support thing is that when you are performing a production of Rent, you are encouraged to, and it's been this way since it was available for licensing, or like even when they were doing workshops and stuff, that the names that people go around and say, like, to introduce themselves in life support are supposed to be friends and family that the cast and crew have lost to HIV.
I like when shows are like encouraged to, or like have something that's like grounded in the real world, you know. It's like I think of like Bandstand that dedicated every show to a fallen soldier, or a lot of shows tend to dedicate like each performance to something, or like some part of their character is like grounded in reality. And I like when shows do that because, you know, it kind of humbles the show. It allows you to connect to it and stuff like that too. It reminds you that those performers that get up there 8 times a week are people that are somehow incredible and can portray these characters. What makes you like Rent so much? Why Rent?
My dad came back from a trip to China when I was like 7 or 8, and he had seen the movie on his like plane ride back. And he originally thought it was in black and white because he had the saturation on the little like plane TV turned all the way down. So then he came home and he bought the soundtrack which was on 2 discs, 2 CDs.
Ooh, fancy.
And we listened to it a bunch in the car, and because I was a child and was sitting in the back seat, I had no control over what we were listening to. I also, like, I say this all the time, it's a very weird thing to listen to when your child is in the back seat, but I think he was banking on the fact that I wouldn't necessarily know what they were talking about.
Oh, that's okay. The first musical I ever listened to is Grease.
I think Rent and Grease are on 2 different... I had to ask my dad, like, about
Have you listened to Grease Lightning?
Yes. I had to ask my dad about, like, why Mimi was so intent on getting, like, her candle lit, and my dad had to, like, not try to tell me about the existence of heroin or sexual tension. Yeah, and then my dad ended up buying the, like, the album, the original Broadway recording, which we then listens to, and then he bought the movie on DVD, and I was allowed to watch it, but I was only allowed to watch the first half. I could not watch anything after La Vie Boheme A. That was where I had to turn it off, because my dad didn't want me to see the part where Angel died, and, like, all of the everything falling apart for everyone. He wanted me to, like, keep it happy.
Oh, so it's Into the Woods Jr., where they, like, don't do the second half of the show and everybody ends happily ever after.
Sure. But yeah, I remember the day, because I used to come home from school every day in 5th grade and watch the first half of Rent. Literally, that's why I say that I've seen the movie over, like, 75 times. But then finally one day my dad was like, okay, you can watch it all the way through. And I did. So then I would watch the whole movie every day after school, like, while I did my homework.
That was absolutely me and Phantom of the Opera. I saw that my senior year of high school, and it literally changed everything. At that point, I had already done a few shows. I had done, like, 4 shows as stage management, or 5 shows as, like, stage management or stage crew or whatever. And I liked working on shows, but I had seen maybe 4 shows, like, and they were all high school productions. So that's to say, pretty not great. Didn't really give me a reason to, like, want to go see anything. Like, sets not so great. I wanted to see Pippin. I don't know why I wanted to see Pippin, but I wanted to see Pippin. I like the idea of Pippin, and I had read Phantom of the Opera, the book. So I was like, I don't need to see a musical based off of this book that I already don't really like. But I was like, I don't want to see Phantom. I know the story. I want to go see something else. And Pippin was about to close, so I was like, I want to go see that. That sounds great. And then they were like, nah, Pippin might close early, so we're not going to buy tickets for it. We're going to buy tickets for Phantom. That's safe. Because if a show's been running 30 years, it's probably not going to close anytime soon. So we went to go see it, and we walked in, and I, like, looked at the pre-show set. I assumed it was going to be a unit set. I assumed that everything for the show was going to be done on that set and nothing else. And I was like, really? They're going to do this whole show on that? So mind you, when everything flies away and the chandelier rises for the first time, my jaw was on the floor. When we got to intermission, mind you, I knew the story. We got to intermission, and I thought the show was over, because they don't announce when intermission is a thing. The lights just kind of come up, and then people start leaving their seats to go get drinks or whatever. And mind you, if I had read the playbill, I would have seen, like, 15-minute intermission. But I had no idea what was happening, and I just kind of stayed in my seat. No one was like, okay, come on, let's go. So I just kind of stayed in my seat. And then the show started again, and it finished, obviously. And it was just like, at that point, I went and I, like, bought the 25th anniversary of Phantom. I had the album. It was kind of a long way down after that, because now I am where I am. And it's really good. I don't understand. I get why people don't like the show, but it's probably forever gonna stay in one of my top musicals just because it's so good.
That makes sense.
It's just, like, it's nostalgia factor for me too, so it's pretty great. You want to do a little fan fiction? Okay.
I'm still really upset that I, like, broke my,
Your streak?
Yeah.
Well,
like, I don't want to talk about, like, how upset that made me. I, like, thought about it for a couple hours after, and I just got progressively more and more angry. So I have to redeem myself this time.
We'll see. Look, number 3. Okay. So we're gonna play titles and tags. Alex loves fan fiction. I don't read fan fiction. But I do get so much joy out of the tags. So we play a game where I'm gonna give Alex the title of a fan fiction, and I'm gonna give her a handful of tags that I find funny. We're gonna see if she can guess the story of the fan fiction, and if she can't guess it, she's gonna make it up. So let's get started. This first one is Too Close for Comfort, and your tags are parallel universes, introspection, established relationship, breakup, fluff and angst, speculation, all the ways they could have ruined their relationship before it began, and anxiety brain go brrr. And if you want the media genre,
Oh no. Yeah, please.
it's an anime.
Okay. Parallel universe? Introspection. So it's an AU parallel universe?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think if Too Close for Comfort makes any brain light bulbs go off. You hate torturing me.
I love
Oh yeah, you love torturing me. I hate it.
I will say, the established relationship isn't necessarily an established romantic relationship.
Yes, that noise was 110% necessary. I think because it's a parallel universe, and in order for anything in this goddamn anime to make anything, like, any sense, it has to be in a parallel universe. It's Attack on Titan. I think. Because, like, everything is so doom and gloom all the time, and they just don't have things. It's difficult to make a lot of stuff happen outside of what is already happening, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Established relationship. One of my favorite ships from Attack on Titan, Hanji and, Levi. So the scientist lady who's obsessed with Titans, and Shorty McShort, obsessed with cleaning, hard-ass Levi Ackerman, because they have a very strong friendship. So they're like, there's introspection on their relationship. There's other people's speculation about where it could go. And their relationship could have gone, like, their friendship could have gone south very quickly in multiple ways, because, it's a legitimate, like, hazard. You might get bitten in half in the attack. Well, no, because it's an alternate universe. I don't know. Maybe you could still get bitten in half in this universe. We don't know. Or maybe there's, like, another analog for, like, that level of danger in this parallel universe, or, like, general state of peril. I also feel like that is a decent application for the anxiety brain go. Okay. Tell me how wrong I am.
Okay. This is Too Close for Comfort by One Small Inspiration. And the description is, when best friends harbor feelings for so long, there's bound to be a million near misses. A plethora of opportunities to change the timeline. The sad truth is that the right person can come at the wrong time, strewing the wreckage of precarious love across the fabric of the universe. Yet somehow, they managed to hit perfect timing with knife throws precision. They found each other. Or, Shoto has anxiety because there's parallel universes where he isn't dating Izuku Midoriya, and that's just wrong.
Now that you're saying that, I can picture the blank Todoroki stare with just a faint just like rolling through the background. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't read a lot of My Hero fan fictions. Like I don't know like what ships to think of when
That's
something
fair.
like that is thrown my way.
I feel like Bakugo Midoriya is probably much more common.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people.
Oh, that's
ship
totally like a friends to
Bakugo
enemies to
and,
friends to
Kirishima.
lovers, right?
I don't know. I don't fucking know.
That's what people are into, right?
I don't know. All I know is Aizawa has cats.
It's also apparently a no dialogue fan fiction, which doesn't make any sense.
Does it say like text fic or anything
no,
like that?
it just says no dialogue.
That's weird. Because sometimes people will do fan fiction where it's just screenshots of text message conversations.
Oh, interesting.
Drives me crazy. Yeah, wow. Okay. I'll just sit here with my failures.
Oh, for one.
Okay, lay it on me.
This next one is probably going to be less fun. But I want to see what you can come up with. And this is Bookstore Girl. And it's alternate universe bookstore, alternate universe human, fluff. I wrote this instead of sleeping. What am I doing?
Don't you know that, like, every fandom on God's green earth has a bookstore AU?
Now I do, but
and sometimes there's a coffee shop next door that someone else owns. I read very recently, embarrassingly enough, a fan fiction where, Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson ran a coffee shop next to, I think it was where, I don't remember the girl in the story, I think it was Wanda, and Loki and Pietro ran a bookstore.
Not Pietro Animal Crossing Pietro. I got a little excited because I was like, what?
No.
I was like, my little colorful clown friend is...
And I forget what happens, but long story short, Wanda ends up banned from the coffee shop. And, it keeps trying to sneak in different ways because she needs her caffeine fix.
Why doesn't she just go to another coffee shop?
She has a crush on Bucky.
Oh.
That's why.
I guess that makes sense.
It's hilarious. I'll have to see if I can find it somewhere. But yeah, so like, I literally think everything has a bookstore AU. Like,
but Alex, alternate universe human.
I'm concerned about what that means. Is this also from an anime?
No.
No?
No.
Fuck.
It's TV show.
Okay. I have no idea what this could possibly be from. I'm trying to think of all of the TV shows that I watched that don't have humans in them, and for some reason I'm thinking of Vampire Diaries, of which I have never seen a single episode. Okay, so based off the fact that it's called Bookstore Girl, and it says alternate universe human, don't ask me why. I just have this, like, really deep feeling that it's Doctor Who. I don't know why, but for some reason I could see, like... Okay, so Bookstore Girl, meaning that the girl is involved with the bookstore, and that is being used as a descriptor between two people who don't know who she is. Talking about her. Bookstore Girl. Okay, so, hear me out. For some reason, 11, who has to have a name because he's a human. Don't ask me what that would be. He is still a doctor. Meets a girl in a bookstore and is, like, completely, like, falls in love with her, and maybe it's reverse song, maybe it's, I don't fucking know. I haven't seen Doctor Who in a very long time. Maybe it's Rose. No, Rose and 11. Never mind. For some reason in my mind, it has to be 11. I think it's because when I picture like old antiqued wood, I picture 11
with his little jacket.
Yeah, when I picture 10, it's like a lot of purple and sparks and insanity. Okay.
Not a bookstore.
Not a bookstore. And then he's talking to, I was going to say friend, but he really doesn't have any friends.
I would argue that 11 has, like, the most friends out of any of them.
That's true. Okay, so he's talking to Amy and Rory about this bookstore girl. And they're like, go talk to her. And he was like, I can't. I don't know anything about her other than she goes to this bookstore. And then all of a sudden she, like, doesn't go to the bookstore. She, like, doesn't see her for, like, 2 weeks. And he's like, oh, man, I gotta find bookstore girl. But all he knows is she goes to this bookstore. And so he's trying to ask people in the bookstore, like, have you seen this girl? And they start to think he's crazy. But then they find each other. It's cute.
Aww.
I'm so wrong.
You're so wrong. This is Bookstore Girl by Nada Ryder. There's only 2 H's in that. S-H-H. And the description is, just as Dr. John Smith's life is beginning to spiral out of control, he discovers a beautiful bookstore and the even more beautiful girl working there. And this is a Doctor Who fanfiction, where it is specifically the 11th Doctor and Clara Oswald, and his friends are Amy and Rory.
I completely forgot about Clara.
I wish I could forget about Clara sometimes.
I don't
actually. That's a lie. I am a 9 and Rose Tyler friend person. That's my favorite arc.
Well, yeah, that was I stopped watching Doctor Who before that. I stopped before the battle of the whatever worlds. Like, I stopped way early. Well, in the middle of 11.
HBO Max.
I know. I want to rewatch
watch it all again.
No, I want to rewatch it, but I want to skip the parts I don't like because I don't have to suffer through it.
As long as we watch all of 9. That's all I care about.
Yeah, obviously all of 9, and when we get to, oh god, The Girl in the Fireplace, Blink, and the one about the kid with the gas mask, we have to keep all of the lights in the apartment on.
Okay.
I watched...
Kid in the gas mask is 9. Blink is 10.
Blink is 10, and Girl in the Fireplace is 10. I used to watch that, like, Doctor Who in general, as it would air on BBC America.
Oh, I never did that.
With my dad. And so I was young when they were coming out. This was about the same time I was watching Rent, to give you any sort of introspective on how little my mind was. I slept with the lights on after Blink and about, I think it's called like the Empty Child. That's what it's called.
That's the gas mask episodes.
And after the Empty Child.
Doctor Dances.
Yeah. For 3 months.
Wild. But
yeah.
They didn't scare me.
Oh my god, I was
They
terrified.
didn't scare me.
The Girl in the Fireplace actually scared my dad so bad we stopped watching it for a while.
Yeah, of all of the things that I am scared of, Doctor Who, it never freaked me out.
Wild.
Yeah. I think the people that had the Weeping Angel thing as their computer backgrounds that would cycle through,
they're brave.
I think those scared me a little bit more than Doctor Who.
I saw someone, it's funny that this is a Doctor Who one, because I saw a TikTok the other day of a guy doing 11's drunk giraffe dance.
I don't know what that means.
I'll find a way to link it somewhere. I'll probably put it in the meme channel of the Discord. And it unlocked a deep memory that I didn't know I had of, like, people I know or knew doing that dance. And I got, like, kind of nauseous and had to lay down.
Well, if you want to go through that same experience and you'd like to join our Discord that Alix has been working on in her spare time, that will be linked along with our Twitter and Instagram profiles in the YouTube description. But yeah, I am honestly surprised you got there. See, that's why I throw in these super vague ones, because, like, there's just a chance. There's just a chance you're gonna get it. And
it's specifically So I don't know what, like, where I'm making the connection, but, like, place pronoun is exactly how I think the Doctor would describe someone whose name he didn't know.
That's fair. I think that's a testament to this person's understanding of
because, like, I feel like
Doctor.
like he's done it before, where he, like, doesn't know someone's name, so he keeps calling them, like, so and so, whatever. So, like, that's why.
Would you argue that, like, Fireplace Girl is the?
No,
does he not call her that? Does he know her name?
I think he finds it out eventually.
Okay. But yeah,
I'll have to think. Yeah.
Actually, when I was looking for these, I found one that I actually was like, I might read this because it was basically like not Clara, Rose being sent back in time, like knowing exactly what happens with her life after she meets the Doctor, and like she gets to decide whether or not she would do it all over again or if she would decide not to. And I'm kind of like, ooh, I know there's a lot of Rose Tyler hating people in this world. I think I honestly like didn't like Rose the first time I watched through the show, and I liked her a lot more the second time I watched through it.
I liked Rose, I liked Martha, and I liked Donna.
I liked Martha up until her whole thing was just like, I am in love with you. And I think because it's like you get two of those in a row, and I was like,
yeah,
does the companion have to be in love with the Doctor? And that's why I like Donna so much, because
Donna Noble has left the library. Donna Noble has been saved.
Their chemistry together was hilarious.
Oh my God.
It was such like a breath of fresh air.
Well, because Catherine, they're both incredible actors. Like, Catherine Tate, I think, is like one of the funniest comedians we will have on this planet.
I love her so much. She gets annoying sometimes, but like her peak comedy makes up for all of it.
All of it.
Okay, are you ready for the last one?
Yes.
This one is called Being a Survivor. And your tags are Designated Survivor AU, Alternate Universe, Modern Setting, Politics, There's a Traitor in the White House, Who? Freeform, IDK, don't ask me.
Did you give me Hamilton fanfiction? Did you give me Hamilton fanfiction? Jane!
It's not on your list, but it's fine. I didn't even give you the full title. If I had given you the full title, it would have, like, given it away immediately.
What's the full title?
The full title is Being a Survivor, in parentheses, Stay Alive.
Oh my God. Okay. So, for those of you who don't know about what it means to be a designated survivor, I think it's something like if there's ever, like, a full congressional meeting where basically, like, all of the important people in the U.S. government have to be in the same room at the same time. One person is always kept in a bunker in case... sounds so surreal. In a bunker for the duration of that meeting, in case the place gets bombed and all those people die, and there still needs to be someone, like, properly briefed and in succession to run the country. And there is a television show, or maybe it was on HBO or something, called Designated Survivor, where that exact thing happens, and, like, I think it's, like, a congressman from somewhere has to become president of the United States.
Yeah, it's like I haven't actually seen the show, but that is exactly, it is a Designated Survivor TV show, alternate universe.
Yeah. So, oh man, who got put in the bunker? So obviously we know it's Hamilton. Who would be the White House traitor in Hamilton?
I don't know.
I could see Hamilton selling out for, like, the idea of getting the upper, like, getting ahead of someone else if he thought it would help him reach a goal. Like, Hamilton is characterized by Hamilton the musical. Who would be the designated survivor? Maybe Hamilton. No, because the whole "you're never gonna be president now."
Except
he was never president. Except, oh, is he president in this? Because I was gonna say it was gonna be Burr. Is Burr the traitor and Hamilton's president?
I've said too much.
Well, apparently Hamilton's the president. Just tell me. Just tell me.
Okay.
I did the heavy lifting at the front.
I think your immediate reaction of, is this Hamilton? Did you give me Hamilton? Kind of is the peak that we're gonna get in this explanation.
I just want to say,
I
know basically everyone who listens to this podcast, or you know them, so I feel comfortable saying this. I hate people who write Hamilton fan fiction.
I don't know what to say. I can't, like, I don't know.
Like, why? What are you looking to get out of it?
I could see people writing Hamilton and Angelica, or like knowing fan fiction writers writing Hamilton and Burr. Like, I could see that.
It's a
okay.
Anyway, sorry.
So this is Being a Survivor, Stay Alive by Simply Sasha, and the description is: in which Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton finds himself promoted to the President of the United States after a deadly attack on Capitol Hill killed President Washington and all of the other cabinet members. Still struggling to govern with the help of his friends, he finds the government threatened, but this time from within the White House itself. Or what happens when you watch too much Designated Survivor and House of Cards. My favorite tags that I couldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you now, are AKA Alex trying to govern while Eliza makes sure he doesn't get impeached, and also Angelica trying not to strangle the press.
Yeah.
There's also a major character death because Washington. But, like, if the entire cabinet gets killed, you know, that kind of happens right off the bat.
Didn't you find something yesterday where it was, like, minor... Oh, it was the thing I sent you on Twitter of someone who had, found their weird favorite archive of our own tags, or it was, like, minor character death, and then the next tag was, the minor character is a plant.
Yeah. Make plants characters. We care about plants. They're like dogs. Look, number 4. I don't know. I thought it's a Hamilton podcast. I could give you Hamilton. I definitely found one about Thomas Jefferson having like a mermaid tail. And I was like, this is it. This is what Tumblr was freaking out about.
No,
I'm not gonna give that.
That's Hatsume Niku or Hatsume Miku.
Hatsune Miku.
Thomas Jefferson.
Okay. I thought there was one with Jefferson. Okay, there's like a whole Tumblr discourse about Hamilton fan fiction
because some
that I had
people
forgotten about.
Got really weird about it.
Yeah,
like really weird about it.
Lying about their entire person to justify why they were writing fan fiction.
Yeah, that was like the one white chick masquerading as 2 HIV positive Indian people.
Yeah, I just like...
You know, weird shit happened on Tumblr. There's a girl who got in trouble for selling bones. Someone else sold like their own toe that got cut off. Either that got cut off or they cut off. Yeah.
But weird things happen in the real world too, and sometimes like they're good things though, like the Muppet casting of Hamilton. So this video is great. Like moving on to talking about this like Hamilton Muppets Act 1 is amazing, and I will link that too because in the YouTube description, because it is just a complete masterpiece. The only thing I think that I disagree with is if there were legitimately a Muppet Hamilton, I would cast it differently.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when the Muppets do like the Muppets version of something, like Muppet Treasure Island or Muppet Christmas Carol, for the most part, the main characters are humans. Like, for, like, the people in, like, the main leading roles are humans. And so I feel like if there were truly going to be a Muppet Hamilton, that would have to be reflected. And so the cast that this guy did, which is, like, entirely Muppets and is, like, perfect in its way. It's, like, Kermit is Hamilton. Gonzo is Burr. Eliza is Miss Piggy. Oh, sorry, I was just reading through it, and he has it listed as Marquis de Lafayette as opposed to Lafayette, and that's Fozzie. George Washington is Sam Eagle. Camilla the Chicken is Angelica Schuyler. Beaker is Lawrence. Ralph is Mulligan. King George is Animal. Peggy is Janice. And then Charles Lee is Elmo, fun fact. And the other ones are pretty good too. But personally, if I were to cast this, and Alex and I have been having this debate for a while, so we each have our own casts that we're going to bring up. For me, I think that Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, Elizabeth Schuyler, and Peggy are all their original Broadway cast members. Like, in my head, that's what they are. But then you have Peggy. I really want to be Miss Piggy because I think Piggy and Peggy. Also, just imagine Miss Piggy as Mariah Reynolds in Don't Say No with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
That makes me uncomfy.
And then I think King George should be Sam Eagle because irony. I think Lafayette and Mulligan should be Gonzo and Mulligan should be Brizzo. Just because when you get to Act 2, having Jefferson and Madison is really important because then they're the rap battle duo. And I think that is perfect because I think you need Brizzo and Gonzo need to be a duo. And so those two are perfect. I think Fozzie should be Lawrence because I guess most of my acting and most of my casting is based off of Act 2 and who I think should be playing people in Act 2 because I just think Fozzie as Philip would be absolutely adorable. And I think Kermit should be Washington.
Well, I agreed on most of that, sort of, where Hamilton, Eliza, and Angelica and Burr are all people. Kermit playing Washington. I had Sam also playing King George. I had Lafayette / Jefferson as Rolf.
Oh, Ralph.
Hercules / James Madison as Fozzie Bear. Peggy / Mariah as that weird sexy pig from the ABC show. Burr is a human. I had Lawrence as being Scooter.
Scooter.
And then the ensemble includes Sweetums, Robin, Miss Piggy, Dr. Teeth and the Electric...
You think Miss Piggy would be in the ensemble? You think she'd
be the bullet
for that?
She'd be the bullet. Dr. Teeth... Exactly.
I can just imagine, like, the close-up on her being lifted up like Hamilton's mom in the opening.
Yeah. Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. And then just to balance it out, John Mulaney.
Nice. Okay. John Mulaney in the ensemble. This is kind of compromised cast that I think we had come to because when we first started having this argument,
I was at work and I had like 5 different versions of it scribbled on a piece of computer paper.
You were very against because everybody's like, oh man, Kermit is Hamilton. So like I think
Kermit's not that aggressive.
It's true, he can be, but like that's not him as a character. I feel like Gonzo could be.
No.
Gonzo. But I like remember because that was the argument we were having is like because you were like no because Robin could be Lawrence and Philip.
Yeah, because then I went down a rabbit hole, of trying to figure out how old Robin's supposed to be because I thought Robin was like supposed to be a teenage frog based off of how his dialogue works in a Muppet
you
Family
told me he
Christmas.
was 20.
I thought he was a late teens, early 20s frog.
But yeah, he plays Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol, Muppet Christmas Carol.
He's small.
Little baby.
He's small. Maybe they just had to find a small frog.
That's fair. Little baby. But yeah, I think your casting gets kind of I love the idea of like everybody's like Sam Eagle is Washington. Like that just makes sense. But I think the irony of having the most American character in this musical about America's founding absolutely has to be the only British character in the entire show. Mm-hmm. The irony there also makes me think of Muppet Christmas Carol, where it's the American way. And then Rizzo or Gonzo whispers in his ear, and he's like, it's the British way. I love Muppets.
I do too.
Too pure, too whole for this world.
I'm very happy that Splash Mountain is being redone as a Princess and the Frog ride, but I will not lie, I was kind of hoping they turned it into a Muppet ride.
I mean, Muppets is like in Hollywood studios, like already kind of fighting for its life. So
I'll help. I'll fight with them.
Well, the problem is like it's right in between, like in Hollywood studios, the Muppet area is like right in between Star Tours and Galaxy's Edge. So like if they ever wanted to do like the cool thing where you could like go on Star Tours and then get off in Galaxy's Edge, like on Batu, you'd have to kind of cut straight through Muppets, and that's not exactly a galaxy far, far away, you know? Could be, but it's not. But I didn't even have to be the one to bring up Disney this time.
I just like
I
that.
got you.
I once saw that Muppet 3D show in Hollywood studios 3 times in a row as a teenager because I wanted to.
It's good.
And the part where Sweetums comes out, that was always my favorite.
I saw it for the first time in January, and it was very cute. It was very worth it. My other friend Alix came to visit me, and she also loves the Muppets, and like she wanted to go to Hollywood Studios like just to see Muppet Vision. Like that's it. Like she was like, if they don't let me in, she's like, I don't want to see Galaxy's Edge. She's like, I'm a Disneyland person. I can see Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland if I would like to. Only here to see Muppets. And if for some reason I can't get in, she's like, I'm tempted to just tell them, no, I just want to see the Muppets. Like I'm not here for Galaxy's Edge. I won't be one of the people you have to worry about. I just want to see Muppets. And she did end up getting to go there. I don't even think she might have walked through Galaxy's Edge while she was there, but she was like, I'm just here for Muppets. That's it.
That's on brand.
That's it. But the other reason, besides this amazing Muppet Hamilton that's going around, super talented guy, by the way, I am so happy that somebody did that and we get to enjoy it. But the Hamilton professional recording that's on Disney Plus is kind of like breaks all of the rules about professional recordings that we know from Broadway shows currently. Because usually if a professional recording is done, you don't get to see it until after the show's closed. But that show still has like 4 productions running, because like it used to be that they had Broadway,
West End, Chicago, LA, or Chicago, California, I don't know.
Chicago, and then 3 tours. The Philip, Angelica, and Peggy tours.
I thought did they have a residency in California? I thought they did.
Yeah, so and Peggy was Peggy was 3rd national tour. It went to it rehearsed in San Francisco, went to Puerto Rico, and then was running in San Francisco. It's now closed. So Chicago closed in January, and then San Francisco has announced that they've closed because of not because of COVID.
They were
but
going
definitely.
to anyway, but because there's no
I don't know
end date to COVID.
They were supposed to go on tour. It was the 3rd national tour. So I know that the cast was put together to go to Puerto Rico, and then they were in San Francisco. But they had never announced a closing in San Francisco. So I think it was just like they were going to be there for as long as they wanted to, as long as they could. And they were trying to set up other tour stops. But at the same time, when you have 4, 5, 6 productions running concurrently, that should theoretically give people the chance to go see it, but tickets are still like
astronomical,
$75 for your cheapest seat.
That's why they started doing, I don't know if they still do it, the Ham for Ham lottery, where you pay
I know they do a lottery.
Alexander Hamilton on the $10 bill.
Yeah, it's $10 to sit like front row, like the first 2 rows is the $10 lottery for Broadway. But I don't know if the tours do do a lottery system. If you didn't know, now you know. But a lot of Broadway shows will do lotteries or rush tickets. A lottery you can enter like 2 days before, usually online, occasionally in person. Playbill has a nice set of articles set up that like specifically keeps getting updated for like what shows you can rush the morning of and like how much tickets are going to be. Usually like I saw a bandstand for like $35 in the front row of the mezzanine because I showed up like 2 hours before the box office opened. Or School of Rock sat front row for like another $30 because I showed up an hour before the box office opened.
So I know this isn't Alex's dream corner, but I just want to say you talking about School of Rock made me remember that I had a dream last night where I had to like try to convince someone that Jack Black was real. And I was like, how do you not know Jack Black?
It's really just Alex Brightman like, pretending to be Alex Brightman, like the person that played Jack Black's role on Broadway.
It's like he was in Kung Fu Panda, Nacho Libre,
and this entire time it's been Alex Brightman pretending to be Jack Black, pretending to be all of these other things.
Yeah. Anyway, continue. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh yeah, no, but it's just like fun fact: you don't have to pay. If you have the opportunity to just kind of take chance to go see some of these shows, you don't have to pay crazy amounts of money to see these shows, but
I don't know.
You don't get the same like security of knowing you have a ticket. You know, I tried to rush to see Hadestown, and they had 3 rush tickets for that day, and probably like 100 people in line. So, I did end up seeing it, and it was amazing, but like, it was not worth the experience of waiting outside of the Walter Kerr.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But Hamilton is a really interesting example of a lot of this too, because it started out in workshops and it went to the public, which the public's whole thing for those shows, at least like the outdoor summer theater shows, is that they're free to the public. Is anybody can go see them. That's how they did their Hercules show. That's how they do a lot of their Shakespeare, is like anybody can go see it for free. And then all of a sudden Hamilton gets put on Broadway because of algorithms and stuff, and like supply and demand. They're charging like $700 for tickets.
Yeah. So the cast album came out in October of 2015. I bought my Hamilton tickets after it was announced that it had transferred to Broadway in July of 2015. So I got to see Hamilton in December of 2015.
Mid-hype.
Mid-hype.
Highest peak of hype.
So, like, my dad and I have, like, a position in the orchestra we like to try and snag whenever possible. And it was, like, standard what we had paid for, like, other shows. Like, I think it was about what we paid to see Wicked, we paid to see Next to Normal. You know, we got to see it for quote-unquote, still expensive, but the normal rate. And then
which
it was
like usually orchestral cost you somewhere between like $100, $130, and $200 a ticket for like prime orchestra seats in like a normal Broadway show, which is still expensive, but it's like if it's a show you really want to see, some people find that worth it.
Yeah. So and then it was, I think by February tickets were $750. No, I think it was after the Tonys. Is it really when it picked up, when people were like, "Oh my God, Hamilton's amazing"?
Or maybe it was December. I think it was December. I think you saw it like mid hype, because it was after the cast recording came out that it was really everybody was obsessed, and you definitely saw it mid hype, because I remember people being like so jealous, and then when you came back and you were like, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah,
was the big thing, and people were like, well, you just don't understand.
There were a lot of really awkward conversations to have, because people were like, oh my God, you must have spent so much money on tickets to Hamilton, and I was like, no, you don't understand. As soon as they announced that they were transferring to Broadway, I had been following the show at the public, and I was like hearing about everything that people were saying, and I was like, cool. As soon as they released the first block of tickets, like, I was home, it was the summer after our senior year of high school, I was like, Dad, I need you to trust me on this. We should get tickets. And he was like, okay, sure, fine, whatever. I trust you. He's only hated one show that I made him see with me. And
if he liked Rent, there's a pretty big chance he'll like a lot of other stuff that goes on. Like, Rent is a very polarized has very polarized opinions on it.
Yeah. It's not sheer dumb luck. I was just lucky to have, like, the pulse that I had on what was going where, and also, like, my dad who was like, yeah, sure, we're gonna be there anyway.
You had the same thing about Hadestown, too. Like, the only reason that I think that I got to go see Hadestown was because, like, you had been listening to the Workshop album, like, a year before they had even announced that it was going to Broadway, and I'd been following its entire Broadway journey, and then I finally got to see it.
Yeah, well, that's how... Also with the prom had been in development for, like, 4 years in Atlanta, so when it finally, like, got the Broadway transfer, I was like, again, Dad, buckle up, we're gonna go see a musical about lesbians going to prom. And he was like, okay. We took my aunt with us, and she loved it so much she cried multiple times.
Aww. But these shows, it's like, these are shows that you can only see on Broadway for the most part. It's just kind of like, that's it. If you can get to New York.
And you have to, by the time everyone else knows about it, it is too late.
Yeah.
You have to stay up on it.
You have to be, like, engaged in that community already to get to see these big shows when they're still small, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, Hamilton is such an interesting thing, because once it started getting big, they realized that they still wanted to reach that market of those people that got to help support them when they were still small. So they would do, like, when people were waiting, they announced their lottery, $10 tickets, which is unheard of. Like, usually lottery tickets start at, like, at least 25, usually 35. And so $10 tickets is insane to sit front row at the biggest show on Broadway right now. Not to mention what Hamilton did for casting too, is just kind of like this. Broadway is very whitewashed. Big problem. Hamilton took this ensemble and, like, took the leads too, and just kind of put this diversity out there, and that kind of benefited from coming from the public and coming from workshops, where it's just kind of like, those aren't as whitewashed. Those are where people get their start, so they tend to be more diverse. And so there's right of first refusal. When the public production decided to go to Broadway, they had to offer the same positions to the people in the show. So obviously these people were all like, of course I'm going to follow this show to Broadway.
So, speaking of right of first refusal, actually one cast member from the public that did not take it, Brian Darcy James was the original King George of the public. He was the original King George. But Something Rotten got on Broadway before Hamilton did.
Oh, wow.
So they were running at the same time. I saw them in the same weekend.
Wild.
So it was...
and now I can't see anybody but Jonathan Groff playing
Yeah,
King
and I
George.
know that I think Brian Darcy James was either the second or third replacement for Jonathan Groff. But yeah, fun fact.
Yeah, so yeah, the right of first refusal, like that cast, like diversifying Broadway. The biggest show on Broadway now has the most diverse cast. People are able to see themselves on stage in a different style of music that Broadway is not used to. Like, because most of this audience are old, white, rich people, because those are the people that can afford to see these shows.
Jeez.
So that money speaks. And so it's shows like Phantom. It's shows like Hello, Dolly. It's the classics that get to come back that tend to do well. And so Hamilton, out of nowhere, here it is. They're doing these $10 tickets so people can show up and try to be able to afford to go see this show that has kind of shaken up Broadway. And then, because there's all these people waiting in line for hours to go to just try to get tickets, the cast decides to do these like Ham for Ham shows where they basically just kind of show up on the sidewalk and they like they perform each other's songs. They get to do like rearrangements.
They are all on YouTube and 110% worth watching.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like they're constantly providing like this content for people that just like want to see it. It's like, okay, so maybe you don't get tickets, but we're going to provide you an experience. Eventually they moved their lottery over to a digital lottery. And
because they were starting to become a traffic hazard.
Yeah, so they stopped doing a...
The city of New York politely
was like,
asked them
please
to stop.
But so you have that. And so it kind of has this history of like making theater accessible on multiple different levels. And some people can argue that they're doing this as a cash grab too.
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be that, well, they're doing this because it just makes them more money. They're putting on more productions. They're putting on 6 productions because it makes them more money. And it's like, yes, that's true, but it's like if putting on 6 productions means that like 100,000 more people get to see this show, that means so much to them.
It's also like the fact that they had so many productions running was what allowed them to be able to go do the show in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
For where they had, I think, somewhere between 50 and 75% of the tickets had to be scaled to be accessible for.
And that's a whole other interesting conversation too that I don't really want to speak too much on because I don't know a lot of the facts. I've read a lot about it, but I like don't know a lot of them off the top of their head. But the conversation of like Lin-Manuel Miranda and like his like claim of being Puerto Rican having an effect on his career, and then taking that show to Puerto Rico and like the problems that had too, like there were student strikes against the show being there and stuff like that, and they moved the location of where the show was, like apparently the American production group for the show moved the location of the show. I'm not exactly sure why, but like there's a big debate around this show and whether or not like it romanticizes history and whether or not it should be worth it and stuff like that. And like it's a big conversation, and this show means something totally different now, being released as a pro shot now than it did 5 years ago, you know? And so it's just kind of like, but that pro shot I think has made a lot of difference too, because you have this show that just kind of like has at every opportunity, cash grab or not, made the show more easily accessible for people. And the one thing that some shows do that some shows don't is do a professional recording. It costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time, and yet your show is beautifully archived for the most part. Like, yes, some pro shots aren't so great, but usually they turn out really, really well. They record a few different performances. They have special rehearsals where they can record close-ups and stuff like that. And so you get a totally different look of the show. Usually it's you don't get to see as much because it's directed in the way that film is. So camera angles obviously have bias and stuff like that. So you can miss a couple of things. But I think for the sake of being able to watch that show forever after it closes in the way that it was, and people will argue it's like, oh, well, they do archival recordings of all the Broadway shows. And technically, if you didn't know, if you have a New York Public Library card, you can technically go watch any show that had an archival recording on Broadway in person. You have to show up in person. You have to request a time. You can have to request a show. You can see each show once for research purposes. And it's like, people are like, well, why don't they just make that archive available? Well, that archive isn't exactly the professional recording level that you're thinking about.
And it would be like asking the National Archives to release something, and it's like that's not their choice.
It's like to make every book in the Library of Congress,
that's what I meant.
Ebook.
And it's like that's not their call. They are, for lack of a better term, they are a bookcase for other people's stuff to make sure that it gets preserved over time.
Yeah, and so it's like, I was looking at it, and it's like, Great Comet, Natasha Peer and the Great Comet of 1812, super strange show, super weird circumstances. I love that show, though, and so I went and I just, like, looked up on the archive, like, if I wanted to go see it, like, is it there? Because there's certain qualifications you have to meet to get an archival recording, plus you have to get funding. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like, Great Comet, one of the shows got an archival recording. They say in the notes there that there's like between like 9 minutes and 18 minutes in the first act, there's audio issues that came from the audio console at the theater that I was at. So there's just 9 minutes of the show of messed up audio. And it's like, that's not something that you want to, that's not a product that you want to sell, that you're going to be able to sell. And that's the way that this show, which will never be put on again, at least not in that specific production. Like, that's how that show is preserved, is in
Well, and it's also, like, people seem to think that it's just as easy as, like, you know, everybody coming together and saying, like, yeah, okay, like, we're willing to, like, put this piece that we worked on, like, out Unions?
Yeah.
I know for IATSE, there's such thing as a reproduction fee that can be, I don't know if it's always 100% applied to, but can be applied to things that are filmed, because their work is being...
You come into royalties, and when you talk about, like, syndication of TV shows, too, it's like...
So, for example, the cast of Friends still earns residuals for every episode that's aired in syndication, meaning, like, the reruns that are airing now. They still earn passive income from that. So, how is that going to translate to, you know, something being professionally recorded and put up on, like, Amazon or Disney Plus or Netflix? Like, how are the residuals for that going to work? Like, how is Actors Equity going to come into that negotiation? Like, because you have Actors Equity, which is the union for the stage managers and the actors. You have IATSE, which is your technicians. And then
you have your society for
the
directors and choreographers. You have the musicians union as well.
Yeah.
And I think those are the major ones that get affected by Broadway shows.
And what is the costumers one?
I think that they are IATSE. They're also scenic artists, and designers are scenic artists. IATSE is they have their own local, but they're a part of the same group.
So that is, you know,
that covers everyone.
So many moving parts, and those are all individual unions that have to come together to reach a consensus.
Yeah.
About, you know, we're willing to make these concessions if you're willing to make these concessions, because they're all trying to make sure that the people whom they represent are getting the best deal and they're not getting a short end of the stick.
There's a lot of debate about unions and stuff, too, and I think what it comes down to it is every rule that is in place in a union is because at some point people's work has been exploited for that reason.
And I also think, especially because in kind of like the recent years, people have equated Broadway and Broadway actors and stars to Hollywood, and it's that they get paid the same, and they don't. And that's part of the thing is, like, everybody still needs to be able to make money.
Yeah, and it comes back to the producers too. It's because these shows, like, producers decide that they would like to put a show up on Broadway. They find a time to rent out a theater to put on, because you don't just get to, like, say, oh, I'm going to put on a Broadway show. It's like you have to rent out the theater from a landlord who aren't necessarily theater people. And then you also have to go and get investors. So you have to make sure that you're getting returns, you're recouping for this show in order for investors to invest in your future products. And so it's just kind of like a lot of producers it's very old hat society, and that's starting to change a little bit, but it's going to be that way for a while. And it's like these producers, historically, they've seen pro shots as, well, if we put out a recording, how are we going to get people to come see the show in person, which is where we actually make the money. And so it's just kind of like, well, if you make it available to them, they're not going to come watch the show. And you get into the bootleg argument, which is the same thing as pirating movies. And it's just kind of like theaters have the same problems. It's like if people can watch it online, they're not going to come and sit in the seat in the theater to watch it. And so it's this huge kind of debacle of so many moving pieces that it's not as simple as set up a camera and let us watch it. And not to mention those same things about the unions. Once you bring in a crew to record it, you have doubled the amount of crew members and production staff. Yeah, and it's usually IATSE. Yeah. I'm actually not 100% sure when it comes to recording Broadway shows what that entails, but it's like you have another creative team that has to work with the show creative team. You have
producers.
You have more producers, you have more crew members, you have, like, so many moving parts.
I think basically, like, what the main takeaway for this needs to be is you can find out who the producers are for a Broadway show. If you're there, they're in your playbill. Otherwise, they're usually listed somewhere on the show's website. Those are the people you need to be emailing, Twittering, whatever, saying, we want pro shots. Not the actors. No. Not the directors. They have no control over that. You need to get the producing team to see it, because they're God. They have the ultimate yay or nay control.
Yeah.
Harassing actors will do nothing.
Obviously, Alex and I have been looking into this quite a bit. I've kind of started a, like, just for sake of knowing, because fun fact, the New York Public Library's archive is turning 50 this fall. It's been 50 years of Broadway archivals.
They should put party hats on the lions.
Oh,
I'm not kidding.
It's okay.
Party
just
hats.
for the TOF, just for the okay.
Yeah.
Just for that archive. But if you have watched any musicals, I'm also going to link a survey that I've kind of put out slowly. If you want to fill it out, it kind of asks the same questions about, like, how many theater shows you've seen, if you've watched any bootlegs, would you watch a pro shot and go see a show? It kind of covers some of these questions because, honestly, at the end of the day, what is lacking right now is numbers when it comes to all of this. And I think that numbers is what's going to help change things.
So, it's not perfect, but it is something. PBS announced on the 9th that they're planning on releasing some Broadway performances as part of their Broadway at Home series. So She Loves Me is going to be on July 24th. Present Laughter is going to be on the 31st. In the Heights, Chasing Broadway Dreams, which is a documentary about In the Heights, which is another musical that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote, is going to be on August 7th. The King and I is on August 21st. So,
PBS's Great Performances is another great resource. They do professional recordings and they tend to air them on PBS. They're available online from time to time. Usually if they're recently aired, you can watch them online for free still. They do a subscription and you get access to a limited amount of their recordings. There's other services like Broadway HD that has some big ones and like Cirque du Soleil shows, and it's hard, and there's like Marquee.tv. They do mostly British performances, usually operas. The Met has been making their operas available too. So there's a lot of resources for this. It's just like getting the backing and convincing people that convincing the producers, this is the future. This is a legitimate path for shows and getting people to see these shows because they can't see anything in person. Like the tours come to people, but if you don't live in a town that's near one, you're not going to get to see that show either. So your only option is a bootleg. But if you make a professional recording available, who wants to watch a show that looks like it was recorded on a toaster? Like when you could watch for $10, $20 and own a show that you could watch as many times as you want.
That's how I feel about the DVD copy of the filmed last performance of Rent.
That's how I feel about
That's the only way I've ever seen it.
That's how I feel about Newsies. I like the second that came out, like the Newsies tour recording was mine. The Phantom of the Opera recording, Bandstand. We saw Bandstand in theaters through Fathom Events. They do a lot of those too, either live or recorded. They do it for ballet and opera and theater. And it's just like, and Cirque du Soleil apparently too. They're out there. It's just needing to convince people that it's feasible, that it is the future.
You need to do your homework. Because just screaming at Twitter won't make anything happen.
Theater's just politics.
Yep.
If that puts things into perspective. It's an art. It's a gorgeous art that Alex and I both are dedicating our lives to. But it's, at the end of the day, it's still politics. So, we've talked a lot. Challenges from last week. I did some reading, but I'll save roller coaster facts for another day.
I don't remember what mine was last week.
I think yours was just get through the day.
Yeah. I did start streaming on Twitch. That's been fun.
You bought your cat a pool.
I bought my cat a pool. Hence the aquatic cat specialist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah, that's kind of...
Keep on trucking.
The challenge for this week is to keep on trucking.
To make it to next time.
To do more research on theater accessibility through pro shots.
Build my cat a water slide.
That one's feasible. We can get that one taken care of pretty easily. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to Please Don't Hate Me. We'll see you next time.